So for those of you who don't know, SSP is Sierra Service Project. It's something that's been going on for a really long time, 50 years to be exact. And it's an opportunity for adults and youth, middle schoolers and high schoolers to go to places that we probably would never try to visit or travel to and sleep in tight quarters and get to know each other and serve every day. Now, I've been going on trips like this on the East Coast and West Coast this is my 12th year now. And before every trip, I say this prayer, and we all say these prayers, and when we're saying it, we're like, we want God to answer this prayer, but then the little voice in the back of our head says, this is really dangerous. I don't know what God's going to do with this. And my prayer was this. I say it every service trip. I say it before every service opportunity. God, teach me one lesson that I can apply to my everyday life when I get back. And then God laughed at me and said, that's funny. Here's 3 lessons. So this morning, I'm going to share my 3 lessons that I learned from SSP this year. Lesson number 1, a small change in a routine can lead to a big change in perspective. Raise your hand if you have like a normal kind of daily routine, big or small. Okay, almost all of us, right? I'm not really big on routines. I don't have to set an alarm clock anymore because the alarm clock sleeps in the room next to me as my 8-month-old son. But I don't wake up at the same time every day. I don't have the same thing for breakfast every day. I don't drive the same way to work or walk the same way to work. There's really only like 4 things in life that I absolutely have to do at a certain time. One is staff meeting on Tuesdays at church at 10 a.m. One is worship, what we're doing right now at 9:30 a.m. on Sundays. And the other one is whenever school starts. I'm sorry, teachers and kids, school's starting very soon. I coach baseball during PE, and that starts at a different time every day. Those are really it. Everything else is pretty flexible in my life. But I have my routines for my soul. When I wake up in the morning and go on walks with the dogs, that's my time to pray and meditate and to get my soul ready for the day. I always make sure I play with Chalmers for at least 30 minutes to an hour every day. I make sure that when Chalmers goes down, that Emily and I spend about 30 minutes without devices, without the TV on, talking about life. I make sure we sit down for dinner, no matter how crazy the day was, with my family. Now on SSP, I didn't get to do any of that. I was all the way up in Crescent City, away from the family. And the really cool part about SSP that Rayanne and I always talk about that we love is they give you a schedule, and as like adult counselors, as long as you kind of like herd the youth and middle schoolers and high schoolers, aka herd the cats at the right time and make sure everybody's safe, that's really your only job. They don't really have to make any decisions. And so the routine is very regimented. But here's the thing I learned. I got outside of the routine that I had been in for the last 7 months. Every morning I'd wake up and help take care of the kid. I'd eat some breakfast, come to work. Hopefully I'd remember to bring a lunch. I'd work some more. I'd go coach, go home, hang out with the family. And I'd do it again and again and again. And to be honest, all of us kind of get into those routines, right? Where the days sometimes feel long, but the weeks and months and years pass by fast because we're just in a routine of go, 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 go. And what I learned is if you don't have to completely change your routine, don't do that. That would really be scary and dangerous, but do something small. Change one little thing about your routine. One of my mentors, the year we came out of COVID, so what was that, like 2022? After Advent, that whole January, he told his church this: your 2 goals are this. Try to come to church every Sunday, and when you do, each Sunday take a different route to church, and then sit in a different seat. And after 4 weeks, he sent a poll out asking people, what did you learn? And the results were life-changing for people. And remember, all they did was drive a different route to church and sit in a different seat. And some of the results were this: I didn't know that we had so many unsheltered people in our community. I didn't know that the trees on that street that I live 2 blocks from were so beautiful. I didn't know that that person who sat 2 rows behind me in church lived 2 doors down from me in my neighborhood. I didn't know that one of my church members owned a bakery 2 blocks from me. One person said, I sat 2 seats from someone for 30 years and didn't know their name because I was set in my routine. I didn't know, me now, I didn't know how much I loved sitting down in the morning and eating breakfast with my family until I did it. A small change in your routine can change your perception of the world. And so I encourage you this week, just do one little thing different. Don't do everything different, because then everything will get thrown out of whack, and then you'll come back on Sunday and be like, you just threw everything out of whack because you told me to do something. Just do one small thing differently. Take a different route to the grocery store. Take a different route when you go on a walk. If you eat oatmeal for breakfast every morning, maybe eat something a little different. And just see how that changes your perception of life. We go with that lesson, we feel like we can change one thing. Okay, good, because it ramps up now. Lesson number 2 that I learned is hope is powerful. Outside of love, right now, I believe that hope is the second most powerful thing we got going for us. So there's 2 different projects that me and Austin got to work on this week. One was Norma's ramp. You saw a picture of it. That's a really big ramp, right? And if you saw, the foundation of the ramp was still there when we had gotten there, but the baseboards were gone, right? It was just like you couldn't walk on it, right? The foundation that SSP had built 8 years before, they'd done such a good job on it that we didn't need to redo the foundation. We only needed to redo like the baseboards, okay? Now here's the thing. We were the 3rd week to work on that project. The previous 2 weeks, and no offense to middle schoolers and high schoolers, and I know I got some like former SSP youth in the room, no offense to y'all, but the first 2 weeks, all those work projects did was pull baseboards out of a ramp. Now, I've worked with youth for 14 going on 15 years now. Convincing a 6th grader that that's what you're going to work on for 3 straight days and that makes a difference can be very challenging, right? Hey, congrats, you're working with new people you've never met before. If that's not awkward enough, we're going to pull baseboards out for 3 straight days. And then we're going to leave, and we're going to have this belief that the next group that comes in gets to do the fun stuff, which is like cut the boards and paint the boards and like nail and screw the boards into the ramp. But like the first 2 weeks, all they did was take the baseboards out. And I was thinking about that when my group got to that work site the first time, and I thought, you know what? I think I'm decent with words, but I don't think words would be good enough to motivate the youth to do this because it seems pointless, right? Why are we tearing something up that works pretty well to put new things in? But the youth had hope. We get a binder, a worksite binder, and in there's a journal. And one of the questions that they usually put in there is like, what did you learn from your project the most? And each kid wrote something from the previous 2 weeks, and every single one of them talked about hope. I knew that every screw I pulled out of that ramp, every board that I pulled out, it gave me more hope that the next group could do the project a little bit better and faster, and it gave me more hope that Miss Norma could begin to host people at her home again, that she could get her life back outside of her home because she could use the ramp again to walk down it with her walker. Hope is a powerful thing. Second moment that I realized how powerful hope was we all saw the picture of us taking the invasive grass out of the dunes. And for any of you who haven't been to like Northern California on the coast, if you go to these big, huge stand dunes in these state parks, there's invasive grass everywhere, as far as the eye can see. And I didn't know until we went to Crescent City a couple years ago that this grass isn't natural to that habitat. This was planted a while back by people who settled there, and they put this grass in to stabilize the dunes so that the hope of they could plant crops there or raise cattle on these dunes. Yes, that sounds kind of crazy to like have cattle on sand or like to plant a tree in sand, but that's what they were thinking. And the bad part about this invasive grass is that it spreads like wildfire. And within a certain number of years, the grass had taken over all of the dunes and ruined the ecology of the whole environment. It got rid of all the flowers and natural vegetation, which then what happens next? The birds and the animals leave. And so it was just a barren wasteland of these beautiful, vibrant sand dunes that was gone now. And it had been like that for decades. And 12 years ago, there was a group of people that decided they wanted to get rid of the invasive grass to restore this environment back to how God wanted it to be. And so we were out there working on the last section of the dunes that they'd been working on for 12 years. And I was talking to one of the organizers of the nonprofit there that was leading us. And I said, how did you feel 12 years ago when you stood on a sand dune and you looked as far as you could left and far as you could right, and all you saw was grass? Like, how did you feel? And he goes, to be honest, the first couple of days when we would meet out there and look around, I felt hopeless. I felt like there was no way that we could walk out here every day and pull this grass out by hand. And there were certain sections they could use a big old machine with, but for the most part, it had to be by hand. He thought there was no way that we were going to be able to clear this. And then he said, it got even more hopeless because I thought there was no way that species who had been gone from this area of California for 40, 50 years, 60 years would ever come back, even if we were able to get the grass pulled out. He said, I felt hopeless. And I was like, okay, then why did you just not give up? And he said, because I knew that in other parts of the world, there were groups of people who had done the same thing. And I learned about this thing called generational hope. And as I think is something that is super powerful. We only got here. They only knew they could pull this grass because somebody before them had done it before. And he said, I don't know. I didn't know at the time it would only take us 12 years. And it's funny to use the word only next to 12 years, but this is how massive of a project it was. But he said, I only knew that we could get this done because somebody had done it before me. Church, I'm going to be honest. I'm a human being. Times feel a little wonky right now. The world feels a little upside down. We have some leaders that are doing some stuff that keep us awake at night. We feel like sometimes when we wake up in the morning, we can't make a difference. And that's not true. We have hope. Because every generation before us, before me, before all of us, has felt this way. But they found hope in Jesus. They found hope in previous generations that they can continue to keep moving forward. So lesson number 2, hope is the second most powerful thing we got going other than love. And if you pair those together, we can change the world. I'm almost done, I promise. Lesson number 3. Relationships are absolutely vital to this work that we are called to in Jesus. Relationships are vital. One of the things I love about SSP and trips like this is I get so excited because I'm an extrovert and I love to talk. If you can't tell, I get so excited to meet new people. And I've been doing this for 12 years, and there's only 2 people after 12 years that I still kept in contact with. But relationships are so important because it ties back to my first lesson. It changes our perspective. On these trips, our youth meet people that they would never, ever, ever meet before, and they get to dig a hole in like dirt with them. Relationships are key. Building bridges, that was the theme. Building bridges is so important in our lives. I truly feel like the problems that we're facing in our society have happened because the people in leadership and the people saying the mean things and doing the mean things have cut themselves away from certain relationships. They've built walls instead of bridges. And so lesson number 3 for me is relationships are so important that I need to continue to try to build bridges in my life when I feel like I just want to put a hand up and say, you stay over there. Every time society or my heart and my soul are telling me, hey, that's a dangerous spot to go, Those are people that might change your mind. Those are people you don't agree with. Those are people that might put you in an uncomfortable situation. Instead of putting up a wall and a hand and saying, no, thank you, I need to build a bridge towards them. If we can build more bridges between each other and in our community, how different would they look? We wouldn't have separation. We would have arguments. Trust me, we would have arguments. We would have heated discussions. But we'd be on a bridge together with Christ. Lesson number 1 is what? Small change. Lesson number 2. Hope is powerful. And lesson number 3. Relationships are key. Now, I know those are 3 big, heavy lessons. But we can do them because it doesn't take a lot. I want to conclude us by giving you this imagery. In college, one of my professors led us in this meditation, and it was about bridges. And he told us, you're standing on one side of the river, and the river is raging. It's got rapids. You can't swim across it. And on the other side of the river is Jesus, standing next to the people who Jesus is calling you to love right now. And you think, there's no way with the materials and gifts I have that God has given me, I can get to the other side of that river. And we feel like that right now. But my professor told me this. The beauty of Jesus is this simple fact. That bridge is already built. All we have to do is look close enough, trust God, see it, and take that next step. So no matter what you change in your routine this week, no matter where you seek to find hope, no matter what kind of relationships you try to build, if you feel stuck, pray, trust God, and take that next step. Because by taking one small step, I truly believe your life will change, and we can change the world one day. Amen? So we're about to enter into a time of music. During that time, I would love for you to just ponder everything I said, or you can just throw it out of your brain if you'd like. But the question I have for us is, where can you build bridges in your life? Amen?